Coffee at 7:45 at night, you guys. That's what life's about right here. Okay, so I wanted to make a video on accents. I think accents are fascinating. I think that regional dialects are really interesting. And I've been watching a lot of accent tags lately because I find them just fun, and why not? But rather than doing an accent tag, I found this quiz. It's 25 questions and it's on the New York Times website. And it shows you, based on your answers, like a map of the country and where it estimates you have spent time or lived or are from based on how you answer the questions. I've done it before, and if I remember correctly, it was like a year or two ago. It was pretty accurate if I'm remembering correctly, but we'll see. We'll see what transpires, and I'll take a look. I'll screen record the process as well. We'll take a look at what the quiz thinks, and then I'll kind of explain how accurate it is or not. So, yeah, without further ado, let us jump right into it. The question 1, how would you address a group of 2 or more people? And there's several answers here. Again, I'm screen recording my desktop, so you will be able to see the questions as I go through them as well. How would you address a group of 2 or more people? I would say you guys. Yeah. I wish I said y'all. That makes the most sense. It's the shortest one. Or you. But see, if I were going to use you, I'd say, hey, you, to like one person, not like 2 or more. So, anyways. Okay. Interesting. So it pulls up this, how you would address a group of more people. You guys is apparently everywhere but the South. Okay, that makes sense. What do you call a small gray bug that curls up into a ball when it is touched? Let's see. I know a lot of people call them roly-polies. I feel like as a kid we called them potato bugs. I think. I can't remember. I haven't even seen one of these in a while. Like, I was probably 10 last time I saw one, but I cannot for the life of me. And the problem is, so another problem is that I've been watching a lot of accent tag videos, so a lot of times I'm going to have stuff in my head that's not how I actually talk, but that is more because I've heard other people saying it. I'm going to go potato bug. Interesting. Those are places I've never lived. Anyways, maybe a potato bug was something else. Who knows? What do you call small freshwater lobster, often found in lakes and streams? I would say crayfish. Super northeast. Well, I lived there for a while. What do you call it when rain falls while the sun is shining? I would say sun shower. How do you pronounce the first syllable of lawyer? Rhymes with boy, I just said it. Lawyer. I know people say is it lawyer? You can tell I'm not from the South. Do you pronounce caught and caught the same? Yes. What do you call a sweetened carbonated beverage? Soda. Yeah. How do you pronounce aunt? With the vowel in ah. The vowel in caught. Aunt. Caught. Oh yeah, this would be I have the same vowel in ah, caught, and aunt. That's the one. How do you pronounce the second syllable of pajamas? Like jam. What is the distinction between dinner and supper? Um, I would I would say there is no distinction. They both have the same meaning, but I also don't use the word supper ever. Um, but if someone said to me dinner and then someone said to me supper, I would infer that they mean the same thing. But I guess I don't use the word supper because I don't. What do you call the thing from which you might drink water in a school? Water fountain? What would you call a scale of unwanted items? Oh, a sale. What would you call a sale of unwanted items on your porch, yard, etc.? So, honestly, I have used 4 or 5 different terms to describe this. I would probably call it a tag sale. But I've used yard sale, I've used garage sale, I've used rummage sale. Some of these other ones I've not used, but I would call it a tag sale probably. If you look on the map, I don't know how well you'll be able to see it on my screen here. But if you look on the map, it's literally Massachusetts. Not even Massachusetts, it's like Rhode Island. I have not lived, or like New York, that's a very, very small bubble of where people call it a tag sale. Wow. What do you call the rubber-soled shoes worn in gym class or for athletic activities? Sneakers. Again, super New England. And randomly the tip of Florida. That maybe makes sense because a lot of people from New England retire and go down to Florida. What do you call the insect that flies around in the summer and glows in the dark? Firefly. Actually, I do use lightning bug and firefly interchangeably. But I say firefly. Like if someone said, hey, what's that? I would say, oh, it's a firefly. But I've used the term lightning bug and I've, you know, I've heard it. It's not out of my, you know, vernacular or anything. What do I put here? I'll do that. Okay. What do you call the night before Halloween? I don't really have a word for the night before Halloween, to be honest with you. What do you call a traffic situation in which several roads meet in a circle? This is funny to me because I was just having a conversation with my mom about roundabouts. I would call it a roundabout. But we were both doing some research on roundabouts because we were both frustrated with why they exist because they just seem to mess everything up, at least in America. And I've heard rotary before. I've heard traffic circle. I've heard roundabout. But I would probably call it a roundabout most of the time. Let's see. What do you call a traffic jam caused by drivers slowing down to look at an accident or other diversion on the side of the road? I would call it rubbernecking. Rubbernecking is the activity, slowing down and gawking, that causes the traffic jam, but I have no word for the traffic jam itself. That would be that's it. It's just a traffic jam. But the activity of, like, yeah. I don't know rubberneck versus rubbernecking. Maybe I would say that the traffic jam itself is called a rubberneck, but I've never used that term, I don't think. Yeah, but that sounds good to me. How do you pronounce crayon? With 2 syllables, sounds like crayon. Yeah. Dawn. With 2 syllables, where the second syllable rhymes with dawn, crayon. Sounds like crown. No, we're good. Okay. Do you call the sweet spread that is put on a cake frosting or icing? I call it frosting. Frosting and icing refer to different things. I would argue that they do. Frosting is more fluffy, and icing is more of like a crunchy, but I'm going to go frosting. How do you pronounce Ben? Let's see what the vowel in sit, see, or set. Set, Ben. Bean. Or bin. Yeah, I said it like set, like Ben. Where have you been? I get way too much enjoyment out of stuff like this. I just find it fascinating how so many, like, it's all one country, and even within a state. I mean, you go from, currently I live in Northern California, and you just go, to Southern California, and it's a different, it's different words and phrases and stuff, but it's different accents too, and it's just crazy to me. Let's see, what do you call a large motor vehicle used to carry freight? I would call this a tractor trailer, truck. But tractor trailer. I think that's an East Coast thing. Out here, I've heard just about all these. I say big rig a lot. 18-wheeler I don't use, but I hear. A semi I've heard, but I call it a tractor trailer. Yeah, super New England. Okay. What do you call it? Long sandwich that contains cold cuts, lettuce, and so on. I would call it probably a hoagie. I kind of think of a sub as a sandwich that's specifically made on like a French roll. I would say a hoagie is more like a specific type of sandwich that's like kind of what it's describing. So, what do you call a big road on which you drive relatively fast? Now this one, I'm trying not to look. I think they mean a highway, and I would say highway. But I've used freeway. I'm the type of person that when I was watching someone talk about this different stuff, I actually looked it up, and I guess I would probably say highway or interstate, but interstate is actually a term to describe certain roads that are part of like the interstate system. And then I believe a highway and a freeway are different, and I can't remember which is which, but I just generally, if there are like on-ramps and off-ramps, like entrances and exits to the road, it's not like there's no stoplights or anything, I would call it a highway. A freeway is bigger than a highway. Yeah, there's a highway. No, I would say a freeway is bigger than a highway. No, I just call everything a highway. What do you call a drive-through liquor store? No. So we have them, but there's no real word for them, I don't think. What do you call the area of grass in the middle of some streets? Boulevard, midway, traffic island, neutral ground, median, probably. I call it an island sometimes too, though. I would say the median, probably. Okay. Here's the map. Let's see. So, see the pattern. Yeah, so this makes a lot of sense so I was born in San Diego, but I grew up in Vermont. And so from about 6 months old till I was 11 or 12, I lived in Connecticut for like 2 years, and then Vermont for the rest of the time in there. And so that makes a lot of sense. As I was sort of developing my speech and learning how to talk, I was in New England. And that makes sense because I lived right about there where the very tip of my mouse pointer is, which is kind of equidistant between Rochester and Springfield. And so that makes sense. I think the tip of Florida, like I say, people retire in New England and they move to Florida. I think that's why that is a thing. Pembroke Pines down there. I've never lived in Florida. I've been there, but I've never lived there. So I imagine that that's just a byproduct of people retiring and moving there. And I currently live in Sacramento, which is right about here, give or take. And as you can see, it's sort of like the western area. I lived in Arizona as well. This sort of western area is sort of somewhat similar, but really a lot of my terminology anyways, obviously it's basing it on my terminology and the words that I say, not necessarily my accent. I think my accent is sort of an amalgamation of a lot of places, but my vernacular apparently is pretty rooted in New England, which makes sense because that's where I grew up. That's where I learned how to talk, and a lot of my family and people that I grew up around are all, born and raised Vermont and New Hampshire area. So makes a lot of sense. But then also for the video, you can also hear me say some of those words and get a sense for my accent as well. But yeah, that was the New York Times. I will link the quiz in the video caption if you want to take it yourself. I think it's a lot of fun, and see how accurate it is. I'm actually pretty impressed. This seems fairly accurate given my my history, my life, where I've lived. I would have expected maybe a little bit more similar with West Coast, just because I went to college out here and I've lived here for about as long as I lived in New England. But then you got to remember, I wasn't learning how to talk here. I was learning how to talk when I lived in Vermont. So anyways, I'm going to stop rambling on, but hopefully you found this video of some interest. And if you do take the quiz, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know how you fared, if it was accurate for you, if it pretty much was how you would have guessed, or if it was completely different. I'd be curious to know. So without further ado, I will go ahead and end the video here. But thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.